One of my coaches when I was 15 gave me this little saying, and it's really, in simple terms, it's called the 3 words, and then some. So you be a good person and then some, be a good husband and then some, do your job and then some, do what's required of you and then some. So I always took that to heart. Like when I did something, I tried to add the 3 little words, and then some. What more could I add to make this better? Like a better experience for somebody. Like today when I'm signing an autograph for somebody, I add the 3 little words, and then some. How can I make this better for the person I'm signing the autograph for? So my training and everything, I just coach, trainer, whatever. You got to ride the bike for 20 minutes. You got to do 5 laps. And I would do 10. I'd stay on for half an hour instead of 20 minutes. I would do more. And I always did more.
Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 154. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Before I get into it today, if you could please leave a review or stars or something on it. I'm trying to build some exposure around the show. Today's guest. This guest was on my get to list almost, well, not since day one because I didn't think I'd ever get him here. Our good friend Lisa Longball made this happen. So please name and who you are.
Tim Hunter, Calgary Flames alumni.
And just for context, we were bullshitting for like 20 minutes before this, but I'm a hockey guy through and through. Grew up playing hockey my whole life. My grandpa got tickets to the Dome day one. So to get you on the show is a really cool experience for me. So thanks for making this happen.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fun.
So the gist of the show, I like the guests to go back as far as they want to go. Where they grew up, how they grew up, how their parents inspired or didn't, family, jobs, work, sport, coaching to where you are today. So take this thing as far back as you want to go.
Well, born and raised in Calgary, which is great, and especially to be able to play for the Calgary Flames for 11 years is incredible. And when I was drafted to the Atlanta Flames, there couldn't have been a further place away from Calgary to be in the NHL. So it was kind of like, wow. And then have the team move here. So yeah, I grew up, my dad was a welder. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, looking after 3 boys, Timmy, Tony, and Tommy. I said, really? You couldn't get off the alphabet but the T? And my mom actually had another boy through another man, and his name was Terry. So I think it was my mom. Timmy, Tony, Tommy, Terry. And my dad used to look at me and go, which one are you? And I'd say, I'm the nicest one, your most favorite one. But yeah, being the youngest of 3 boys, I had to battle my way through, being a young kid and playing in the yard with my brothers. They beat me up. They pushed me around. Got hand-me-down skates. Got everything hand-me-down. But I just kind of, fought through it all and just loved being a little guy and having 2 older brothers that took care of me. And it was good. And we grew up first Child Avenue. Then we were in Forest Lawn. And then we were and I grew up in Acadia. So I lived in Acadia till I was 17 or 18. So probably about 14 or 15 years. And that's where home was. Growing up in Acadia, going across the street to the Acadia Community Center, playing outdoor hockey, going to Acadia Elementary, David Thompson, Lord Beaverbrook.
Wow.
All within, 5-minute walk of my house. It was really cool. And I still have to this day so many friends that I grew up with when I was, kindergarten, 5, 6, 7 years old, playing hockey with all these buddies that I still keep in contact. We still do birthday parties. We do fishing trips. It's amazing. And a lot of people, they don't get that luxury because they never stay in one place for that long. And then to, to end up playing in Calgary, then to move back to Calgary after 30 years of, working and playing in the NHL, coaching in the NHL, back in Calgary, I have all these great friendships. I just pick up right where I left off. So, and it was, with being the youngest of 3 boys, my 2 older brothers were a little bit badass. They were, my oldest brother was a very good hockey player. And he was very tough. And I think I get a little bit of my toughness from him. But I just followed along, used to be a little rink rat, going to the rinks, playing stickball, down underneath the stands and watching my older brother play. My middle brother didn't play much. He just didn't Tony didn't take to hockey that much. So it was Tom and I, he was my hero. And
What was the age difference?
well, there's 5 years between Tom and I,
Okay.
and 2 years between my brother Tony. And actually, both of those guys passed away in 2014 within 60 days of each other.
No way.
Yeah, I took a job in Moose Jaw in 2014, and right away, beginning of late September, early October, my brother's wife called me and said that Tom was in the hospital. He's got cancer, and they don't expect him to live long. So I came to Calgary every weekend, spent Saturday or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then I went back to Moose Jaw and coached Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, came back Saturday and came back Sunday morning. They gave him 3 to 5 weeks to live, and he lived 3 weeks and 5 days. Wow. He was just full of cancer everywhere, and he was 59 at the time. So that was he was my hero growing up. And then my middle brother, he was involved with a car pedestrian accident in '89, in the August, the year we won the Stanley Cup, and he was wheelchair bound and kind of institutionalized from then on. My dad used to care for him. Then when my dad couldn't do that anymore, we had to institutionalize him. And he got pneumonia and a bladder infection and just couldn't fight it off, and he succumbed. I was actually on vacation. I flew up to Calgary. I was with him when he passed away, and that was in early December of the same year. So end of October and the middle of December, both my brothers were gone, 2014. Wow. So they didn't make 60, and boy, I'll tell you, when I hit 60, I was a happy dude.
Fucking jumping.
Yeah, it's great. So, they had different things going on in their lives that contributed to that. My brother was a radiographer. He was around X-ray technology and X-rays and pipes and welds, and that's not easy on your body, so that played a big part of it. But no, and my parents growing up, my mom, she drove us everywhere. It's really funny. I told this story when I was inducted to the Alberta Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, my mom was like never afraid to drive us anywhere. We had 2 cars. We had this 61 Plymouth, and we just wore the doors off this old car. And my mom was like the most careful driver. And I was always like, as you get a little older as a kid, you're like, let's go. Like, we're in a hurry here. Like, come on, Mom. Like,
people honking.
the gas pedal. Like, let's go. And I was, but I never ever said anything to my mom. Then, like, she passed away too. And I was talking to her, and I said, like, when I was a kid, like, I'm just really thankful for all the driving you did. She goes, well, you didn't know this, but I never had a driver's license. I'm just like, what? She goes, I didn't have a driver's license. I never got my driver's license. I drove for like 60 years without a driver's license. And I'm like, now I know why you're going so freaking like slow.
10 and 2.
Yeah. She just didn't want to break because she didn't have a drive. And all she was just driving. We had a paper route, and we did all the papers from Heritage Drive on McLeod Trail all the way down to down in Mindapore.
No way.
Yeah, we had a nursing home, Woolco, we had the fire department, all these places, where the Canadian Tire there was a mink farm there. We used to deliver papers, but we had to drive because it was so long getting down, and my mom drove us. So all the paper routes and all the hockey games she took us to, and she never had a driver's license.
Just driving.
Just driving. So it's just great. Like my mom, they were great, and my dad was really passionate about hockey. So another funny story, my dad came from England. He went to Australia, worked in Australia for a few years. Then he went back to England and came to Canada. He came to Canada through New York, and he got off a boat in New York in early, I think it was like 50 or 51. And he had some buddies, and they said, hey, there's this thing they got. It's called hockey. And we're gonna go to a game at Madison Square Garden. We're gonna go to a game. It's the old building. So he went and watched hockey. He's like, wow, if I ever have a boy, they're gonna play that game. So we had 3 boys. We all played hockey, played soccer because he's from England, and then we played lacrosse. My dad liked lacrosse better because he says it's just like hockey. It's another game where you can carry a weapon in your hands. He's like, it's like, holy mackerel.
I guess.
Okay, Dad. Another weapon, a lacrosse stick, hockey stick. Soccer, you got no weapons. So I played hockey, and my dad loved hockey. He watched every Saturday night. We'd watch Hockey Night in Canada, Toronto, whoever Toronto was playing, Calgary growing up in the 60s. And I wasn't a big Montreal fan, but my dad loved Montreal because they won. And he said, if Montreal gets rid of a player, he's no good. If they trade a player, you don't want him. Because if Montreal doesn't want him, they're the best team. Why would you want him if they don't want him, right? He's always saying that. Sam Bullock, he's a genius. All the trades. Well, it turns out it was funny when, like story I was telling you earlier about being in Birmingham, my first year pro, and the team folding, and the first team to get the team to get the first pick is Montreal. Like, how do they pull this off all the time to get the first pick in the minor league dispersal draft? That was Montreal. So it was kind of cool growing up in the 60s and watching hockey. And I became a real big Blackhawk fan because I liked Keith Magnuson and Phil Russell and Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita. And I liked their logo. The logo. There's a story behind that too. So yeah, just cool stuff growing up in Calgary and being part of the hockey community is pretty neat.
I just have this picture, like your dad's loving hockey. He's got 3 boys. Like, it was just expose you to everything. Here's the outdoor rink, and just like spend time there, and just like got you in early, and just like this positive push behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. My dad was great. I mean, he wanted me to be a good hockey player. He said, why do something and be average at it? Be your best. And, he's probably one of those guys that was yelling from the stands, like, carry the puck and pass the puck and do this and, playing the game. Yeah. But all harmless stuff. And our group growing up, the kids that I grew up with, and all those kids were still friends today. We all play hockey together. Our parents were all the best friends. We'd go on the road down to Blairmore or to Castlegar, and your parents driving, and then we're in bed and they're partying away and having fun, and then next day at the rink and they're cheering. They got bleach bottles full of rice and they're pounding these things. It's a great life. It was a great life. It's so much fun. And we had a rink behind our house in the lane. We had a bit of a island lane and behind our house, so all the neighbors would flood it with their hoses, so we could skate there, and then we could go over to the community at night. The community center, my dad had a key to the light box because he was in charge of doing the shoveling and flooding at night. So when everyone was done playing at like 9 o'clock at night, they would shoo everyone off. Then they'd shovel the ice, flood it, and get it all ready for the next day. And the best time was on Friday nights because they were done. And my dad would say, okay, when you guys are done, come home, turn the lights off. And we could stay there till midnight. Wow. If we had our homework done and everything, Friday, Saturday night, and it was unbelievable. If it was too cold, we wore our boots. If it wasn't too cold, we wore our skates, we played. And there was all kinds of kids, all the dads that shoveled, all the kids there. Dads would go home. We'd just walk home afterwards. Midnight, walking through the neighborhood. You don't see that nowadays.
Skate and stick.
Yeah, exactly. We had our toques on, our parkas, and our long underwear and everything, and our skates, and it was the life. It was unbelievable.
Do you think it's even possible for kids to grow up that way now? Like it was, and for context, so I'm 48. So for me, I have similar hockey stories, right? Like I was a volunteer at the rink. So we'd clean it, and then we'd flood it, and then a handful of us would stay and play, and then I'd walk home. And so that was in the 80s. But do you think kids can actually...
I think so. The community I live here in Calgary, there's a rink out front. Yeah. We're right in front of I live right across the street from a park, beautiful park. And the dads, we have lots of young families in our community, and the dads, they all build a rink every year. I know the co-op, they're a big contributor to these community arenas. They pay for the sheet, the plastic that lines them, the boards. And these guys have the big hose that they hook to the fire hydrant. Somebody keeps it in their garage so it doesn't freeze. And it's a great operation. And you go over there on a Saturday, it's jammed. I'm looking forward to, it's a little cold on Sunday here yesterday. And there's no kids out there yesterday. It was too cold, -15. But there'll be kids there today after school because it's warming up. And that's fun. I went over there last year. I went over there and I put my skates on, and there was like 7 kids, 3 girls and 4 boys. So I said, okay, the girls against the boys. I'll play with the girls. So there's 4 of us and 4 of them. And I had my Flame jersey on. And they're like, is that real? I go, nah, it's just a replica. I got it at the Flame sports shop. The kids had no idea who I was. So I'm playing with these guys, these gals, and, you know, making passes. And they're all kind of looking at me. And then finally one of the dads comes over and he's like, hey, Mr. Hunter, how you doing? And they're like, oh, you guys didn't know you were playing with a former NHLer? And the kids are like, what? So the dad had to tune him into what I was doing. So it was kind of cute, kind of fun.
For sure.
But yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not quite the way it used to be, where we could just walk through the community by ourselves, because no one lets their kids walk through the community. But the kids, they're there. You know, the best part of where I live, I have a screen door in the front. I just open the door and close the screen. And the kids at the playground at night in the summer, you hear them laughing and hooting and hollering, having fun playing. They're not on their phones. They're not behind a TV. They're out enjoying the outdoors. Yeah. And that's such a cool sound to listen to, kids doing that. So in the right places, I know, you know, but it's tough too on families, because a lot of families have to have both parents work. So, you know, the kids, you know, they're well watched, you know, because... you know, the parents have to pay attention to what's going on. Yep.
Elementary, junior high. Is it hockey like through and through, or what else has got your interest as a youngster?
Well, all the intramural sports, I played everything. Badminton, ping pong, volleyball, and then all my schools, except for my elementary school, the high school and the junior high, they had hockey program, intramural. So we had hockey, and it was... You know, I was always like, there's probably 2 kids on every team that was decent, you know, and so you know, and the big part was trying to include everyone, because you could just skate through everyone, but to include everyone and pass the puck and have fun, and that's kind of what the teacher wasn't the coach. He was like, hey, you know, I know you guys can, but why don't you include everyone? And that was fun. That was a great lesson. But I love playing soccer at recess. Just amazing, fun times, you know, going out and being active. I was probably a kid that needed to be active. I was busy. I was a busy kid.
The energy to...
Yeah. And now I'm, you know, I think I've had enough busyness in my life. I'm nice and laid back now.
Which is like, you've earned it. It's like...
Yeah.
High school. Where'd you go? And when you're coming out of high school, did you have a plan of what you're going to do, or what do those years look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so playing hockey, my first year, you know, I lived in Calgary. I played midget hockey, so I went to Lord Beaverbrook, grade 10. I played midget hockey. And then the next year, I was transitioning. I went to the Kamloops Chiefs training camp. They were in the WCHL then. It wasn't the WHL. And they said, gee, you know, we wouldn't mind if you went to Fort St. John and played Junior B. Instead of going back to Calgary and playing midget, you could go play Junior B. You're a big kid, there's older guys, better competition. So I went to Fort St. John as a 16-year-old and played in a Junior B league with men that had jobs, 20, and some had a couple kids. So it was a different thing. The Peace Caribou Hockey League, Quesnel, Prince George, Dawson Creek, Grand Prairie, and Fort St. John. And it was great. It was great for my career because, you know, I really blossomed and really improved.
That's a young age to be, you know, I guess kids at 16 now might go play the Dub or wherever, but at your age, were you mature at 16? Like, were you ready for kind of everything? You were ready to go?
Yeah, I was, you know, and having 2 older brothers made me... You know, because they all, you know, I saw what they went through as a 16, 17-year-old. And, you know, Tom was 5 years older than me, so he's pretty cool. He had a Harley Davidson and, you know, and car and all this. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool life.
Yeah, I could do that.
Girls and all that, you know, like, hey, this is my chance. So I went to Fort St. John, had great billets, it was unbelievable. Just, I was the rookie of the year, first team all-star defenseman as a 16-year-old. Had my first fight, and I got killed. My brother came to watch me in Grand Prairie, Tom, and he's like, what are you doing? He goes, number one, that guy's really tough. Number two, you got the shit kicked out of you. And what are you doing? So he gave me and we're in the parking lot. We're just getting ready to get on the bus after the game. He gave me a couple little pointers, and I never looked back after that because Tom gave me a little tune-up and really helped. It was all about being balanced and being athletic and not standing to your feet side by each and, teeter-totter, get pushed over and punched. You got to have leverage. You got to have power, So he was, anyway, so Fort St. John was great. And then I came back after Fort St. John. I went to Henry Wisewood because Beaverbrook wasn't on semester. I was on semester in Fort St. John. So I came back, went to Wisewood. Then the next year I went and I played in Kamloops. So I went to high school there, played for the Kamloops Chiefs. The team had moved from Kamloops to Seattle in the Western Canada Hockey League. So now they're Seattle Breakers. So I played the year in Kamloops and, started to get noticed. And I was thinking of going to college. I liked, I was a decent student. Had some, some scouts talking to me, and I was thinking about it. And then I went and played 2 games in Seattle, and I was like, ooh, I like this hockey. This is, and it's just kind of liked, and the scouts from Seattle knew I was interested in college. They more or less talked me out of that.
Yep. Like you wanted to go NCAA.
Yeah, which probably, was a good thing. I think the Western League is where I needed to play.
Yep.
Different players, different, for different things. And I just wasn't the guy for college hockey at that time. I was probably too rugged, too competitive. And so I played, so I came back again and finished my year in Wisewood. And then the next year I went and I played in Seattle and played 2 years in Seattle. I went to some community college in Seattle, and 2 years, my first year in Seattle, they changed the draft from a 19-year-old draft to an 18-year-old draft, the underage, 1979. So season's over. My manager calls me. He goes, hey, you got to get an agent because you're ranked number 14 out of 25 underage picks in Canada.
Wow.
You're going to get drafted in most likely the second or third round. It's like, come on.
Not on the radar?
Yeah, no. I mean,
I
I was 18 at the time, and I had 300 penalty minutes. I beat up everybody in the Western Hockey League. No one was tougher than me. I played a lot. So I was like, I see it now, but I didn't see it then. And, I was hoping for the next year.
Yeah.
And then here, boom, I get drafted 3rd round, 54th pick overall by the Atlanta Flames, go to training camp, sign a pro contract, go back, finish my junior year in Seattle as a 19-year-old, 300 penalty minutes, 67 points.
You had a year.
I was, and we didn't have a great team, which was disappointing because I just love to win and hate to lose. But I had a good year. I played a lot. I played like 30 minutes a game, and I just loved it. Really blossomed. I really thought I was going to be a defenseman in the NHL, and that didn't turn out.
Did you, as you're making your moves, like you're going to different teams, new leagues, do you feel very natural in all these different states? Like you get to a new league, new team, and you just kind of, do you fully embrace it? Is there any hesitation to what you're about to get into? Is there nerves? Like what did you feel like when you showed up at Seattle? Were you just like, nah, this is hockey and I got this?
Yeah, well, you always have some trepidation of, new guys and who's the alpha guy and coach. And 90% of the time there was good leadership and good people, and that made it really easy on guys that were new like myself. Going to Fort St. John, the older guys embraced me. They really took care of me. The city, the coaches, the billets, it was unbelievable. And those guys are the guys that you owe a lot to because they treated you like a little brother. And I got so many stories about so many guys. I get a job in Moose Jaw. I move to Moose Jaw. I move out to the lake at Buffalo Pound Lake. And my neighbor goes, hey, there's a guy here. His name's Bob Miller. He says he was your goalie in Fort St. John. I go, no way. Bob lives out here. Yeah. He lives actually 3 doors down from you. And I'm like, come on. So Bob was my goalie, but Bob was an older guy, and he made sure that my roommate, Mike Messick, and I got home because we were only 16, that when the parties were getting past 10 o'clock, we had to go home. He drove us home. Then he would go back to the party. So Bob took care of me. It was a great guy, and still is to this day. He's just a wonderful guy. But, guys like that really, embrace, helping other people, whether it's in hockey or whatever. And you need those people. And that's what I became when I played later in my career as a veteran player. You were treated, you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you were treated well, so you treat people well. So it's pretty simple.
It's funny, like I'm listening to your stats, right? You have a year and you're like, the draft thing is like, it's over here. But what is it actually? Did you have an idea of what your hockey career, like what you wanted out of it when you're in Seattle? Like if you weren't thinking about the draft, did you have an idea of what you wanted to become? Like were you thinking overseas? Were you thinking did you have an idea of what it could be?
Well, I did and I didn't, but so you asked earlier, like, so hockey, did you always, what was the plan? Well, the plan was to play as long as I could and try to go as far as I could. But then if it didn't work, I was going to be something like, I wanted to go to school, but I really didn't want to go and spend 4 years at school. Go to a 2-year vocational college and do something. I was very mechanically inclined. I'm creative, so I don't know, but I was just going to start with something if I didn't make it in hockey. And then when I really got serious when I was 17, when I had a good year in Fort St. John and I was confident playing against men. As a 16-year-old and 17.
Were you a big dude back then? Like as a youngster?
So that's a big reason why I went, because at 15 I was 6'2".
Oh shit.
Okay. So
you were.
They saw me playing like midget in Calgary. I just skated through everyone. And I wasn't a bully, but if I wanted to finish somebody, it was
gets ugly.
They were hurt. And I didn't. So, but it was best for me to go play against guys bigger so I could learn to play against them. And it was a great experience. There's a lot of good hockey players in that league. Guys that just wanted to stay home and stay in the oil and gas business in Fort St. John and Grand Prairie and the small towns, but they were good hockey players and it was fun. I think, got serious Kamloops and trained hard and really got into the fitness and then Seattle, and then go to Atlanta. And, Al McNeil, who just passed away, and I'm going to go to his funeral here on the 27th of January. But Al, when we got drafted in Atlanta, he told Jim and Poplinski and myself and some of the other guys, he says, listen, we got lots of time for you guys because you're good kids. You're character kids, character people. So we have a lot of characters on this team, but no character. He said, we're looking for guys with character. So it's kind of, so you had a bit of a, be a good person, work hard, you'll get your chance. And that's exactly what we did. We got our chance. They drafted us and they did everything they could to give us a chance to succeed. And that's what you want. That's what anybody wants, right? So they put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making sure we had success. But you got to give back, right? You got to do your part. And that's, my thing was, one of my coaches when I was 15 gave me this little saying, and it's long and I could go into it, but it's simple. It's really in simple terms. It's called the 3 words, and then some. So you be a good person and then some, be a good husband and then some, do your job and then some, do what's required of you and then some. So I always took that to heart. Like when I did something, I tried to add my 3 little words, the 3 little words, and then some. What more could I add to make this better? Like a better experience for somebody. Like today, when I'm signing an autograph for somebody, I add the 3 little words and then some. How can I make this better for the person I'm signing the autograph for? Little things. And you learn stuff like that from guys like Lanny McDonald. But so my training and everything, coach, trainer, whatever, you got to ride the bike for 20 minutes. You got to do 5 laps. And I would do 10. I'd stay on for half an hour instead of 20 minutes. I would do more. And I always did more. And my dad, being the jokester, he always said, like, listen, I'm really proud of you, but at the end of the day, it's all about hard work. He said, if I ever see or hear that you're not working hard, or see you not working hard, I'll be really disappointed. He said, because hard work takes no special skills, doesn't take talent, and it doesn't take any brains. You should have no problem with it. I'm like, thanks a lot, Dad.
Thanks, Pops.
But he was right. Hard work. And I thought, if I could outwork everyone, be the hardest worker, I'd have an edge. So that translated into being the fittest guy. I boxed. I did all these things to make me better and improve my game. Like, I wasn't a great player. I was good enough, but not great. And I got better because I worked hard. And that's all you want. And like I said, the easiest thing you can do is work hard. So in throwing in those three little words and then some, I got more out of myself and more out of everyday life.
You touched on something interesting. You kind of just brought up your dad. As you kind of progressed in hockey, how was he involved with you? Like, was he conversations? Was he this kind of like, I don't want to say the guiding force, but was he an important resource as you kind of progressed?
Well, the number one thing and what you learn when you have kids is they're not going to always take your advice. And I do this with my kids. And the advice is I ask them what they want and they tell me, and I go, well, good, you should do that. I don't tell them what I think they should do, because that's not what they want to do. They want to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So don't tell them what you think they should do, because that's your idea. So whatever you think you should do, you should do. Go ahead. I'm right behind you. I'm 100%. So I learned that through my dad, because my dad, I would call him and I got drafted and went to training camp and all this. And I'm in Atlanta and I call him. I go, hey, they want to sign me to a NHL contract, and this is the terms and this and that. He goes, great, good, sign it. He didn't have any advice. And I'll take it back, a little story. It's a great story, because it's when I was drafted as underage, I grew up with a bunch of guys in kind of the southeast part of Calgary, Willow Park, Acadia, Fairview, Haysboro, Bonavista, and played with all these guys. And most of them were older than me, 19 years old. So when they changed the draft to an 18-year-old draft, I could see my dad was kind of like worried. And I was like, never understood. So these guys, all these 19-year-olds and their parents, they decided to have a draft party. So they had the Pioneer Club, and they rented it, and they were going to have, so when they all get drafted, we're going to have a party and we're going to celebrate everyone being drafted. And I said to my dad, I said, you going to come? He said, I'm not coming. He said, did you look at the paper? You're the only one that got drafted. None of those guys got drafted. You're the only one that got drafted. I'm like, no way. He's like, yes. You're going to be like a leper. No one's going to talk to you, because they're all mad because they didn't get drafted, and you got drafted as an 18-year-old, and they're all 19. And it was really, so I went with a friend of mine, and we went, and he was right. Like, it was very uncomfortable, and I was kind of like, maybe I shouldn't have came. But over the night, the guys started coming around and saying hello and wishing me, congratulating me, but it was kind of a downer, and some of the parents did, but my dad was right. So, it was kind of weird, this, and I've given advice to other people, but that was one of the times where my dad really was like, he knew, and he was worried, because people can be mean.
Yeah.
And, I didn't realize that they would be mean, because, I was just a young, dumb kid, I'm like, anyway, so it's kind of a great story. It's a funny thing, but yeah, that's life, but that was one of those moments where my dad
actually gave you some direction.
And after that, he never really, he used to, after after I left home when I was 16, going to Fort St. John, I never had those car rides where he'd tell me, say anything to me or anything in the car. Never really did that.
Yeah.
I'd talk to him on the phone. He was always positive. Hey, great job. You know, you're moving the puck well and blah, blah. My dad just kind of knew that he was just a fan.
Yeah.
And he came to every game I played in the Saddle Dome for 11 years.
No way.
Yeah, he loved it. He just loved it.
It must have been an interesting spot for him to be that passionate about the sport, and then to see your son in the hometown playing on the biggest stage. I feel like it would have just been this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, you know, and especially we won the Stanley Cup. So we had the Stanley Cup, had a party at our house, and I invited my Pee-wee Tiny Mike coaches.
Amazing.
And it was really cool. And I got a picture with my two favorite coaches, John Cousins and Zeke Hamilton. John Cousins is actually the grandfather of Dylan Cousins, who plays in Buffalo. And his dad, Mike, and his uncle, Scott, I grew up with in Acadia. And his dad, John, was my coach. So it's cool. So I go way back. I saw Dylan in Whitehorse this summer, and I got to meet Gavin McKenna.
Oh.
Really cool. So, just those moments. Yeah. But the best moment, we didn't win, but so my dad retired at 65 in 89. In June 15th, 14th, that's his birthday. We won the Stanley Cup May 30th, 1989.
Good year.
We were in New York for the 7th game of Stanley Cup Finals, and it's same thing. I don't remember the exact date, but it's close to his birthday. So I flew him out to New York for Game 7. I was playing with the Canucks. Game 7 in New York for Stanley Cup. I flew him out. We lost Game 7, but he was there. Took him for dinner the night before, a steakhouse in New York City, where it all started. You know, so pretty cool.
It's amazing.
So, you know, I said, so that if I have boys, they're going to play that game. Well, I played that game.
Did you like that steak dinner? Like, do you remember the conversation?
Oh, you know, it's stuff just like. You know, he's like, can you believe these freaking New York Rangers? They got Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier.
Just 94?
Yeah, Kevin Lowe, Jeff Bukaboom, whoever else. Oh, Craig McTavish. He goes,
no cap, just bring them all.
You know, like you can't get away from these guys. You struggled for 11 years in Calgary trying to win a Stanley Cup, and now you got to contend with these guys again. And funny, I'm pretty good buddies with Kevin Lowe, and he said, I was thinking the same thing. Holy jeez, I thought I got rid of Tim Hunter. He's beating on me and spearing me and slashing me. Now I got to deal with him for 7 freaking games, Stanley Cup final. So it was fun, and my dad's like, yeah, you know, it's just, you know, he says, yeah, you guys have played well, you know, and we were the underdog. Yeah. I mean, they were the powerhouse, Messier, Anderson, Brian Leach, and
Bees. Who's the goalie? Bees?
No, Mike Richter.
Right.
But you know, Kirk McLean, he was amazing. Like all the guys, we had a real deep team. That was probably my most fun year in hockey besides winning the Stanley Cup, because Pat Quinn was an amazing man. Like he was incredible, and I really loved playing for Pat. It's a shame Pat's not here, but I really enjoyed playing for Pat.
Your path in the NHL, was it, once you got there, did the hard work thing continue? Was that your kind of your calling card? I'm going to do those extra 3 words. I'm going to always take it a little bit further. Was that the thing that kind of obviously got you there, but then kept you there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I learned something, and I was doing it and I didn't know it, but I always tried to be an innovator. And I was reader and reading about successful people when I was young and even today. But when I was playing, reading about what successful people do and habits of successful people, and there's a lot of commonalities, right? With hard work, number one, and being focused and disciplined, on your approach to things. And so I tried to, I was really determined to do it right, and all the different things like training, and one of the first guys to wear a heart rate monitor, so I could get in my training zone and work, be in that zone, and not kind of drag my feet and barely get in there and then not be in there long enough. And so I always had the highest MVO on any team I ever played on. I was the fittest guy in every team except for the first year I was in Calgary, Jamie Hislop was. But after that was like me. Every team I was on. Calgary, Vancouver, Quebec, San Jose. Even at 37, I was the fittest guy in the San Jose Sharks.
Wow.
And but that started with those three little words. I was in hard work. I wanted to be that guy that no one was going to outwork. And I remember going to Washington, my first coaching job, and I worked for George McPhee in Vancouver, and we were having a practice, and I was assistant coach, and I'm out there, I'm getting the pucks ready, and there's no one on the ice. I'm getting the board up and everything ready for the team to come out. And George McPhee comes down and he goes, "Unbelievable, Hunts." He says, "You will never change." He says, "Exact same thing when you're a player. You're the first guy out on the ice, and you're the last guy to leave. At 37 years old, you're doing that. Now at 37 years old as a coach, you're doing the same thing." And that was it, so being an innovator and going that, I took rowing lessons. I rowed at the Glenmore Reservoir here and the Calgary Rowing Club. That was a big thing in the day, rowing machines. I was boring sitting on a row. I'm just going to row a boat. I could go out here, single scull up and down the reservoir. I did all that all the time, train something different. Had a road bike, had a beautiful road bike. I rode everywhere, out to Cochrane, up to Banff, down to Millerville, get on the road instead of sitting on a stationary bike. Boxed, and I did all different things. And then I had heart rate monitor. I had all these different things going on that the other guys were like, "Geez, those things are expensive." I go, "It's an investment in your career. A couple $100 for a heart rate monitor. Tell you what, wait till you see me at training camp and I've got the best MVO2 because I have a heart rate monitor. Then you'll know why." And so later on, when I first started coaching, Ron Wilson was my head coach for 15 years. And Ron was an amazing guy, brilliant guy. And I would say to him, like, "Should we do this? Should we do that? What do you think of this drill?" And he'd say, "Listen, Hunts, don't coach the way you think and copy what other coaches do. He says, "You're a smart guy. You're an innovator. Be an entrepreneur in your own position."
No way.
Right? Cool. So he says, "And besides, if you got a drill and you screw it up, these guys aren't smart enough to know. They're just hockey players." And we'd have a laugh, because we were both hockey players, right? So he said, "Just try new things. Be an innovator. Do what you want to do. Have your own vision of what it should be." And then the same thing, my coaching career, I was an innovator.
So the idea around hard work, some people have, they have a passion for something, they might have a skill set for something, and then there's hard work. If you didn't, how does it all fit together? Some people dream about getting to the NHL. They might be super skilled or whatever it is, or there's something, they're chasing it. How does it actually happen though? Is it like this perfect, is it timing? Is it lead with hard work, and then passion kind of comes in, and then skill sets there? Like if you could prioritize what skills you needed to actually get to the top of whatever you're doing, how would you do that?
Well, I mean, you have to be capable. You have to have the talent enough that you've been well coached and you were a learner, that you could learn how to skate, learn how to do all these things to play the game, if you're talking about hockey. But the number one skill is is mind over matter. So what is hard work? Am I working hard enough? How do you know when you're working hard enough? So you learn that by people pushing you. Then you're kind of going, "Wow, I didn't think I could do that." and you go past your capable limits, what you think you have. Oh, I can't do that. It's too hard. Or, oh, I want to quit because it's really hard.
Yeah.
But you don't quit. So your mind starts to understand, if you're thinking you're working hard, you're not working hard. You can work harder. Your mind knows when you can't do any more. But you'll never know that unless you push yourself. And that's the key. That's why people become successful, because mind over matter. Oh, it's hard. I don't want to get up at 6 tomorrow. I need sleep. I didn't get enough sleep because I stayed out late. Didn't have a discipline.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta pay the piper. You gotta fight through it, and then learn that you need to be disciplined. You need to get your sleep. So all these things, you play with your mind all the time of, am I doing the right things? How can I do it better? How can I train harder? How can I work harder? How can I be the hardest worker? And it's all here because your mind tells you, yeah, you can do it. You've done it before. Your body's felt that before. And that's how you become good.
Yep.
And great. Well, great has to take tons of luck and special skill. You know, the special skill that, say, Wayne Gretzky has. Yeah. That he could recognize something faster than anyone else. Like if the car drove down the street, you'd go, yeah, it's a 67 Chev. I think it said V8 on the side. Wayne would go, yeah, that's a blue 67 Chev. It was a V8 427. The license plate number's that. Because he could pick up things so quick. Yeah. His vision, ocularity, he could take a snapshot quicker than anyone else. That's why he was always ahead of the play, because he could take a snapshot of the play, boom, boom, make a pass. That's special. Yeah. Hard to train for that. Yeah. You know, you have it or you don't.
To crank it up to that level, you know, first guy on, last guy off, all the extra things, being innovative, all the different, like, you approached it differently. Did you have to like thoroughly enjoy that process to actually do that every year, every month, every day? Like, did you actually have to enjoy that? Maybe it wasn't pain, but just that process. Did you feel you enjoyed it at a certain level?
Yeah. That was, you know, probably, I talked earlier about being a busy kid, always being, you know, lots of energy. That was my way of getting rid of energy, was to have that focus and dig in and do it. And, you know, probably missed lots of parties and missed lots of chasing girls and lots of that. But, you know, I was focused, and I, you know, got my rest. I got my, you know, I made sure. And then, later on, you can have some fun because you start to figure it out. And I used to say, well, you got to get the sins out of your body some way, you know, because you put them in, Tim, you better get them out, you know. So put the time in, you know, and then that's true, you know. You can't be like the Chris Chelioses and the old guys in the CHL that used to go in the sauna and ride the bike with a plastic garbage bag over them to get the weight out of them so they could make weight. I never had to do anything like that.
When you're you played for a long time, when the transition out, like when you're trying to figure out like what's next, how long you want to play, or what did that piece of your career look like, the out?
Well, when I was getting near the end with Calgary, I knew I was going to go and be put on waivers for the expansion draft. Tampa and San Jose were coming to the league, and then I got picked up by Tampa, and I was kind of excited, kind of fun. And then they traded me to Quebec the next day, and it was a downer because Quebec they weren't spending any money, and I was at the end of my contract, and I was hoping to make more money, and I mean, it worked out. I spent the year there. Did the best I could. I was a good citizen. I mentored Joe Sakic, Owen Nolan, Matt Sundin, Adam Foote, Curtis Lecision, Mike Ricci, all these young guys, and we had them all for Christmas, and I did everything I could, and they weren't going to pay me, so they moved me on in the waivers, and I got picked up by Vancouver, and that was the great thing, you know. And so I signed for 3 more years with Vancouver, but I was thinking that might be it. So Calgary, I like Calgary, but I wanted to spend some time in the U.S., live in the U.S. So I lived in Bellingham, when I played in Vancouver, I had 3 years contract. I took it over 6 years, had him defer. And so I thought, if I get out after the 3 years, I've got 3 years of salary coming. I can kind of gradually get into what I want to do, whether it's scouting or whatever, real estate or who knows. I was starting to plan. And then, I signed a 4th year in Vancouver. I was like, wow. And then they said, Tim, right as soon as the season was over, my last year in 95, 96, Pat said, Tim, we're not going to sign you again. So it's, it was like July 1st was free agency, but they told me in April, you can go out and find a job if you want. So I said to my agent, I said, I want to play 1 more year because I want to retire on my terms. He said, I'll find you a job. So he found me a job. I signed in San Jose so the year before what I made, and I only played like 60 games, he said, we'll pay him the same amount of money, but we're going to cut it in half because we only want him to play 40 games. He's only going to play 40. He's not going to play every night, but he's got to be a good guy, teach all our young guys. And we'll give him bonuses for every game he plays past 40. It'll be the same as what he made in Vancouver. I said, bingo, I'm in. So I signed there. It was great. And it was a great experience. Dean Lombardi was fantastic with me. He wanted me to stay and coach with Daryl Sutter because they fired the coach. Daryl Sutter was coming in, Paul Baxter, Daryl, and Roy Sommer. And they offered me a job to be an assistant coach. I was like, this is going to make my transition easy. Because I was at home and I was thinking, boy, now it starts, And then we had a party at our place. And the next day I get a call from Dean Lombardi. He wants me to coach the Sharks. And I would have been the 3rd assistant coach. 3 days later, I get a call from George McPhee and Ron Wilson, and they want me to come to Washington to be assistant coach. But this time, a second assistant with Tim Army, Ron, and I'd be the second assistant. More responsibility for more money. So I'm like, wow, I thought I was retiring. I thought I was getting into real estate or something else. Now I'm going to stay in hockey. So we moved from Bellingham to Maryland, and I coached in Washington for 5 years. It was fantastic. And the funny thing is 5 years there, and then we got let go, and I have a year on my contract. And Ron Wilson calls me at the end of October. He said, hey, Tim, do you want to stay? You want to coach again? I said, yeah. He goes, got a pretty good gig. He said, I'll keep you informed. December 2nd, we took over as coaches for the San Jose Sharks. Daryl Sutter got fired. Paul Baxter. And now I'm coaching there where now I'm 5 years of experience. Now I'm back to San Jose, got a better teams, better situation. So it was fun. It was kind of cool. But again, in those days, my last parts of playing in Vancouver, I made sure I told Pat Quinn and George McPhee and Steve Tamolini that I wanted to stay in the game. I love the game. I want to be a scout or, do something to stay active in the game. And I told those guys. So Ron and George were there. Ron went on and he coached the Anaheim Mighty Ducks as the first head coach. So Ron was gone, but George was still assistant general manager. Then they both got the positions in Washington. The first guy they thought of was me because, I had this want, and they knew I was a guy that would be good with other players and good with the young guys. And so it was kind of a natural. It was kind of fun. And so 15 years later, coaching the NHL was amazing.
Did you know that opportunity might present itself? Like the idea of staying in the game, scouting is probably like you can do it. It's a natural progression.
Yeah.
But the coaching thing, did it actually?
Well, I wanted to, but I didn't, you never know, know, like I made, and that was kind of what my dad told me. He said, hockey's good. He said, you're good at it. He said, you're good with the young guys. You're a good pro in Calgary. Fans loved you. You're, humanitarian awards and different things. He said, you just try to stay in the game. And Al McNeil told me that too. He said, stay in the game. He said, you're good. You're good at the game. And I believed him, but the opportunity, you never knew, because it's a fickle thing, it's a bit of a who's who knows who, who you know. Yeah. And it was great. It was great. And it was, I tell people, I go, oh, you retired? Like, what'd you do? I said, all I did was play hockey and coach hockey. I've never had a job. Really. I mean, they're jobs, but they're dream jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty great.
Because there's so many players, right? There's so many players in the NHL, and there's always guys retiring, and then who knows what they want to do. Some guys might want to stay in the game, or do you think it's just is it because of how you operated while you were playing? The dedication, the innovation, being a good dude. Is that what kind of opens the door to allow that possibility?
Definitely.
Like it's kind of, I don't want to say it's basic, but it's like it's being a good guy with work ethic, and it kind of opens up possibilities.
Yeah, but you got to know how to do it.
Right.
You can say it.
Yeah.
But you got to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And you got to mean it. And yeah, like, great example. I knew when we won the Stanley Cup in Calgary, I would play more after we won. And I'd get another opportunity with another team because everybody loves a winner.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. The team that won the Stanley Cup in Calgary had no Stanley Cup experience. Nobody had won a Stanley Cup in that team, which is rare. Most teams bring in experience to help them win.
Yeah.
But no one had ever won a Stanley Cup in the Calgary Flames 89 team.
How'd you figure it out?
Well, we had lots of guys that kind of came in and helped teach us along the way. John Tonelli, Doug Risebrow, they had won. With that team in 86 that almost won, we had those guys were in that team.
Yeah.
And then we learned from their help, and then failure obviously helped us in losing to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then, obviously how we figured out was the biggest thing was Edmonton.
Yeah.
How we had, if we thought if we could beat them, we could win. And when we did, well, they weren't in our way in 89, but in 86 they were.
Yeah.
And that gave us a lot of confidence because probably the two best teams in the NHL for, after the Islanders, Edmonton beat the Islanders, then it was us and Edmonton from then on in the mid 85 to 90. Won 2 President's Trophies, won a Stanley Cup, and Edmonton won 4 Stanley Cups, right? So, but
do you just learn, like, when you say, you're going to continue to play because people like winners, what is it? Like, is it just like understanding the process? Is it understanding how to work within a team? Like, what do you think it is that actually?
Well, the biggest thing is how to deal with the whole process of winning, the pressure. The teams, when you're supposed to win, it's a lot of pressure because you're supposed to win the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
Like we won the President's Trophy in 89. Not many teams win the President's Trophy and win the Stanley Cup. But we had such a good room with, our leader, like could have been 10 captains on that team, easy.
Yeah.
And we really, Crispy let us manage the room. We handled things in the room, and that was good. Like anyone was being goofy and not buying in, like they were
dealt with
in a hurry.
Yeah.
And, undisciplined penalties and stuff. And, I had to learn, being the all-time penalty. The year we won the Stanley Cup, I had the most penalty minutes ever, 375. But in the playoffs, I was very disciplined. Very disciplined. The reason I had 375 minutes because I told Theo Fleury when he came first week of January, I said to him on the bench, I said, listen, you do what you do. We'll take care of it. Anybody messes with you, you just play the way you play. I know you're going to piss people off. I'll deal with it. I can? Yeah. Well, I had 375 penalty minutes having to deal with the guys trying to kill him. But Theo felt comfortable.
Yeah.
He felt his teammates had his back, that he could just play, that it wasn't, oh boy, I can't be me.
Yeah.
We let him be him, and he flourished. And that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if you're afraid to have those conversations, like put it on the line, tell the guy, like, hey, dude, I got you. That's my job.
Yeah.
Anyone messes you, I'll take care of you. That's my job. Go ahead, have at it. And that's because that was his makeup. He was a little piss pot. He was just in everyone's face, and and it was great. It was what we needed. We really thought he was going to make the team at the beginning of at training camp, but we didn't have room for him. And then later on, they made some changes, and we were went through a bit of a funk. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we needed a bit of a spark, and he was everything we needed, and that was it. Probably lost 3 games the rest of the season after that.
On a roll.
Yeah.
That room, you've been in so many dressing rooms. What can you tell? Can you tell early on if a room's got it or doesn't have it, or what's possible or not possible based on that experience? Like, does that room rank up there as
big time.
one of the
yeah.
So now when you've been in all these different rooms, you have this as kind of this reference point.
Yeah.
Has anything ever like got up to that level?
Well, our team in Van was very much like that.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good room in Washington, went to the finals. I've been to the finals 4 times. Washington, my first year coaching, we went to the finals. We lost to Detroit 4 straight. But, good leadership, lots of respect for each other in the room, and you can tell that. Like when you're a player, it's really evident. When you're a coach, it's, like I talked to Doug Risebrow and Tom Watt. They were assistants on that team. And they're like, we didn't worry one bit about you guys. We knew you guys were going to do it. You were so solid. We could hear the bantering. We could hear when you'd straighten somebody out. We knew you guys. And it wasn't, it was just, hey, there was no, but no. When Lanny, people say like, how are things? Like even today with our alumni, they go, how's it work? Well, there's Lanny, then there's the rest of us. And that was like in the room. Yeah. When Lanny said something, you listened, right? And I learned, Jim learned, we all learned from Lanny. And but you had Gilmore, you had Neuendijk, you had McCowan, you had Merzen, you had Ramage, you had all these guys that fully capable of being captains of the team, of any team. But so there was just such respect, and you could listen to every successful team, MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL. The players always say the same things when they win. And what's that? We respected each other. We didn't want to let each other down. We looked across the room. I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want him let him down beside me. That's it's just it's not the coach. Yeah. It's not the manager. They don't go in the trenches. They put the team together. They have a vision of the type of people, the skill set, the good character, and the direction, the template. Like, the coach, this is the way we're going to play. Yeah. But they don't get it done. The guys in the room do. Because they're the guys that are looking at each other in the eye and saying, dude, I put it on the line. You didn't. You better put it on the line. And it's true. And that's what it takes to win.
15 years coaching. How long did you play? How many years did you play?
I played 16 years in the NHL.
And then coached for
2 years in the minors.
Crazy. 30 years around the NHL, 31 years. When you're done coaching, like what do you do when you're done with the NHL? Like do you have an idea of what the next version of your life is going to be when you're kind of...
Well, for me, I had so many interviews to be a head coach when I was an assistant coach. And I really wasn't that guy that was climbing the ladder to be a head coach, because I really enjoyed being an assistant, especially for Ron. He let me do my job. When we were in Washington, I coached the D, ran the penalty kill. And I just finished playing, and now I'm coaching the defense, changing the defense, and running penalty kill in the NHL. What a great guy to let me do that. Then we go to San Jose, and Ron let me do the penalty kill, the power play, and then I transitioned, started coaching the forwards because we brought Rob Zettler in. So I had all this, and we didn't have a video coach in San Jose. I did, the work I did was amazing. I had to get all the video and break it all down. And then we were transitioning from digital. We started digital in Washington. We're the first team to have digital video, give the players CDs to watch their games. We were the first with a bench monitor in Washington. Now every team in the NHL has bench monitors.
Built
they
into
have a whole system on the bench.
Yeah.
We were doing that. 97. So, doing all this stuff and having all this responsibility was amazing.
Yeah.
But, and I slowly thought, maybe I could be a head coach. And I thought, probably got to go to the minors, American League or junior.
Yeah.
So started to figure a plan. And then I coached. I was fired in Toronto and I had a year left of my contract. So Dixon Ward, who I played with in Vancouver, him and a guy called, they own the Okanagan Hockey Academy.
Okay.
And I saw they had an opening for a midget coach, AAA midget, which is U18.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't say midget. So I thought, I'm being paid by the Leafs. I'll go and live in Penticton for a winter, coach young kids. Because if I want to coach junior, I'd have to. So there was all the jobs were gone by the time I was fired in Toronto at the end of June. There's no jobs available, but this midget job. So I called Dixon and Andy Oakes is the other guy. Great people. And I said, hey, you guys, I'd love to come and coach. You would love to come to Penticton?
Excuse me?
I'm like, yeah. I said, you don't have to pay me. I'm being paid by the Leafs. And I was being paid a lot. And I just want to come and get some experience. Would you let me get the experience? Well, let us think about it. Call me back. Hunts, we're going to give you the job, but we're going to pay you. I'm like, what? Yeah, we're going to pay you. I'm like, all right. So I called up Brian Burke and I said, Berkey, I got a job. I'm going to coach at the Okanagan Hockey Academy. He knows those guys. He goes, well, tell them they don't have to pay you because you're making a shit ton from us. I said, Berkey, they're going to pay me. Why are they paying you? I go, they want to. He goes, well, that's an offset on what we pay you. I go, no, it's not. There's nothing in my contract says anything about coaching sports school hockey, midget hockey. Really? I said, well, you negotiated the contract. You wrote it up. Well, let me look at it. Oh, guess so. So you're going to proverbial double dip. So you're getting a raise. So I went there and coached. It was an unbelievable experience. Great. The Okanagan Hockey Academy, they are Cadillac. They do a great job.
Forever.
So much fun. And coach kids and, equal opportunity employment. They all pay the same. They all get to play the same. I treated them, it was great. It was so much fun. And so then, okay, I'm looking for a junior job. I had 3 offers and took the one in Moose Jaw. And, it was great. It led to coaching the U18 World Championship with Hockey Canada, 3 World Juniors Championships with Hockey Canada. We won the league title, the Scotty Munro Trophy, regular season champions. So it was great. We didn't have success in the playoffs, but, we had a good team and such a great thing to coach kids and watch them transition from young boys to men, 16, 17 to 20-year-old men that are, get contracts in the NHL. And as 20-year-olds, one year we had 3 20-year-olds. All 3 of our overage guys got entry-level contracts in the NHL. Unheard of. Mm-hmm. To get one is something, but to have all 3 of them. And one of those was Tanner Janot, playing in LA now. He was in Tampa and Nashville. Great kid, unbelievable story. Walk on, try out to a 4-year career in WHL and get an entry-level contract. Now he's playing in the NHL as a regular. Yeah. So those are the fun things about that level of coaching. Yeah. And, started getting 60 and COVID hits, and it's like they want to fire me because they want to transition to the next coach and the next kind of cycle of junior hockey. I was 6 years there. Yeah. I'm like, I'm retiring. It's been a good ride. Yeah. And it's been great. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. It was just 21 years. It was probably 23 or 4 because I worked in the Okanagan Hockey Academy. And then 1 year I didn't work. I was being paid by somebody, Washington, so I was, it's been great, so yeah.
Do you spend much time reflecting back on all of it and where you are today and either how you can enjoy your life right now or like it's funny when you started the whole thing off saying you're born and raised in Calgary. You're born and raised in Calgary. I was like, oh shit, I had no idea. You win the Stanley Cup here. You do all these things. You're in the league forever. You're coaching for all these years. Like, do you ever sit back and be like, wow?
Well, I don't, because that's why I moved back to Calgary. So now I never thought I'd be a fan.
Really?
Like,
because you've been around it.
Yeah, when you're playing, you're coaching, you're so involved, and it's hard to cheer for anyone.
Yeah,
you never get a chance because you're in it.
Yeah.
Even in junior, I was too busy to pay attention to the NHL to be a fan. But, so I moved, and I've done a lot of stuff over the years, coming back to do the golf tournament for the Flames alumni and stuff, and know all those guys because they're brothers because we won a Stanley Cup together. And but I moved back here. After not being here for 30 years, I moved back to Calgary, and I'm like immersed in the Flames alumni. And I go to every game I can. I come back once a month. I'm in Arizona most of the winter. I come back once a month to do something for the Flames or the Flames alumni or both. Like this week, I'm here for the poker tournament tomorrow night. Flames game Thursday, Buffalo. I'm going to do some work for the Flames, corporate stuff, and so it's amazing. I'm a fan. So, the Flames ownership, they really, truly do treat their players like family. They treat us like family, as alumni. And there's not a lot of guys that get invited, but we're invited to the season starting barbecue with all the families, and you're there as an alumni. So around the players, get to know the players, and Christmas party with the players and families and wives and ownership, and it's really, really cool. So I haven't left the game. I'm still in it. It's fun, and I'm really proud to be a Flame fan and a Flame alumni. Yeah. And the stuff we do in the community and all the time we give back. Yeah. It's great because there's no game unless there's fans. Yeah. And that's how you cultivate more fans, is by giving back to the community. Yeah. And, that's what makes the whole circle go around, It's why even in retirement, I'm still working, but it's easy because I love doing it,
This has been unbelievable. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I end the show with one question. When I say Calgary, where does your head go?
Well, I think Calgary has been a great community, and always will be a great community because the people here are very friendly, and they'll do anything for you. Anything, even in the new culture of new Canadians, there's more and more new people coming here. We're all new people at some age, some point of our lives, coming to Canada, coming to Calgary, and it'll never change. It's a great city, and I'm proud to be a Calgarian, definitely.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is it's just cool. It's cool. It's cool to hear these stories. It's cool to, like I said, I'm a hockey dude, so I didn't know how long the coaching career was, but it's cool to hear the depth of how involved you are in the sport. So thanks. I appreciate this.
Oh yeah, wonderful.